Hello again. Today I want to talk to you about logical fallacies. Now this is a lesson that is going to work with our claim of values essay, but it's really something you should think about whenever you're writing an argument paper or whenever you're having a discussion. The logical fallacies, quite literally exactly what it says, is something that sounds logical but that is fallacious or flawed. There is an error in the reasoning. The trouble there is that it actually does sound good. If you don't think critically about it, then you don't really realize that there's something wrong there. There's something erroneous about the reasoning, the logic being used. Now, most people commit logical fallacies by accident. They're not intentional, but often if you listen to political speeches, for example, that's a great place to hear ones that have been specifically designed to persuade an audience on the hopes that they won't think critically about what they're hearing or what they're reading. If you think about it, every time you hear the word Obamacare, that actually is what's called an ad hominem fallacy. It's a name calling. It's something created by people who are against the new Affordable Care Act to kind of make you have negative connotations with it. So every time you hear Obamacare, it makes you think bad thoughts, and that is kind of a manipulative strategy. It's a name calling. It's ad hominem. Equally, every time from the other end, liberals refer to conservative viewpoints as a war against women, that is their effort to kind of craft what is, in this case, is a false analogy, war versus political passages of laws that may affect women. Those are two things that really are apples to oranges. And so in that case, it's a manipulative strategy on the other end to kind of get you not to think critically, but rather to be seduced by sort of flowery words. Thinking critically is one of our responsibilities as educated individuals, which you all are as soon-to-be college graduates. It is our job to actually think about the information that we consume, as well as the information that we put out, that we distribute in our papers and in our own discussions. So that's why logical fallacies are so important. In your writing, the reason why they're important is because if you write flawed arguments, you may convince a majority of your audience. That's possible. But the few people you don't convince, they're going to know that you haven't done your homework or that you're trying to do something manipulative. In that case, you're going to lose all your credibility as a writer. I talk often about Aristotle, and the reason being is because for rhetoric, for the art of speaking persuasively, Aristotle is really the father of rhetoric. And in his day, there were people called the sophists, and Aristotle spoke out against the sophists because for them, persuasion was the primary goal, and it didn't matter if your logic wasn't always sound. And so what I want you to realize is that actual rhetoric, actual persuasive speech should have accurate and correct logic. Again, because if you don't, then you lose your credibility as a speaker. So you don't want to be sophomoric when you're writing. You don't want to be someone who sounds professional but actually is spouting off a bunch of information that isn't accurate or that is somehow flawed. That is just something to charm you. It's not real logic. It's not practice logic. It's not research logic. So your job is to look through that, both when you are a consumer of information and when you are a distributor of information. So on your claim of values essay, it is going to be very important for you to do your research. And that research needs to be peer reviewed. That is a very specific word. It's going to be probably mostly articles from our library databases. There's a whole library page attached into the Blackboard that takes you through how to use their databases, how to search for proper, reliable research. Peer-reviewed is going to be articles that are written by experts in the field that has also been read by an audience of experts in the field or reviewers. That audience will have passed the essay. They will have approved it. They would have said, yes, this is researched evidence, it's credible evidence, and it doesn't commit any of the logical fallacies that are sometimes susceptible to arguments. So pay attention to the idea of peer-reviewed research. That's going to be very important when you go to compiling all of your data and evidence for your research papers. There is no place for logical fallacies in honest argumentation. You should make a conscious effort to reason accurately and without misleading information. You can often get away with logical fallacies, especially in a speech scenario. Realize that when someone's speaking to you, you don't always have time to process the information, to think really critically about it, and so you often get caught up in the emotions of the speech, which is where logical fallacies really are useful. Having said that, in print, when you're writing, people have a whole lot more time to read your material. They read it once, twice, over again. They can think, they have more time to think critically and to compare your words to sort of what is proven research. In that case, and really in a speech setting, you don't want to use these logical fallacies. It ruins your credibility as a writer, as a speaker, and it makes people not trust the information that you disseminate. So when you're ready, go into Blackboard, take a look at some of the resources I have there for logical fallacies. There's a YouTube video that's a cartoon based that kind of is a comical demonstration of some of the fallacies. There's a handout that explains some of the most popularly used ones, although there are tons out there, and so I could not possibly cover all of them. And then there's the St. John essay. It is an example of an editorial page that uses a ton of logical fallacies and gives you a chance to practice your detection of them and see why they really do sacrifice the credibility of an argument. Take care to pay attention to these logical fallacies, or I should say avoid them, when you're writing your claim of values essay and your call for papers essay. Thank you very much, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.